Hello guys, and welcome to my Templar Bow 2H build for the Horns of the Reach patch. This is an incredibly powerful PvP Templar Bow 2H build. The gear on this build works really well for Templar, Sorc, and Dragon Knight. So those are the three classes that kind of don't have access to Minor Berserk. This is like the best in-slot gear for Bow 2H for those characters. So let's jump into the build, guys. We've got 4,860 weapon damage on this build, just coming at over 61% weapon critical chance, just over 30k stamina, and we've got whopping amounts of crit damage. We are rocking the Shadow Mundus as well, so this is a really high damage, high healing stamina Templar build that's quite mobile as well, boasts some great recovery and some good survivability. But primarily this is an incredibly high damage, bursting, and healing Templar build. So let's jump right into it, guys. Let's check out that stat page. We'll buff up real quick for you guys here. And there you have it, 4,854 weapon damage, 61.7 weapon critical, fully buffed. We've got 1,947 stamina recovery, 30k stamina, just about 24.5k HP, almost 1,100 magicka recovery, and just about 600 health recovery. So absolutely incredible recoveries on this build. Now let's take a look at the defensive portion of this build as well. We've got 2,000, almost 2,100 spell resist, almost 1,800 physical resistance. Now our crit resist is only coming in at 1,356. This is actually 500 lower than it should be, and that's because I'm bringing you guys this build from the PTS just before this patch is dropping, and I didn't have access to impenetrable gear. So I actually have 2 divines on instead of the 2 impenetrable that I should have here. For our buffs on this build, guys, we are running the Shadow. We get Minor Berserk as we are wearing a 2-piece Slime Craw. We are a Vampire, Stage 4 Vampirism, very important for this build, guys. And then finally, the food that we're using is Orzorga's Smoked Bear Haunch. And this is the increase your maximum health and all 3 of your recoveries food. This is an absolute must for this build. The sustain that this gives you is too invaluable to give up. It's incredibly, incredibly good. So this is the must-have food for this build. I know it's a little bit more expensive, but I would highly recommend that you use it. If you're just planning on doing some PvE stuff with this build, of course you'll change your skills up to match your PvE kind of rotation, etc. But you can switch to Dubious Cameroon for PvE. Otherwise, switch with Orzorga's for PvP. For the potions that we run on this build, guys, I've got these Gold Coast Warrior Elixirs. These are going to give me stamina, weapon damage, and weapon critical. This build is only missing the weapon critical buff, as I don't use jabs. If you're using jabs, you only really need stamina potions to give you that stamina back, so potions are totally up to you. But if you're playing with the same offensive skills that I like to use, you need that weapon crit pot. So the ideal potion for this is a weapon critical, max health, and maximum stamina pot. I don't have access to those because I am on the PTS, of course, so I'm just making do with these right now. Okay, guys, so let's take a look at the gear on this build. We're going to start off with the 2 Slime Craw. As you can see, we have the 2-piece Slime Craw on. It's going to give us the spell and weapon critical in the 1 piece, which is new with the Horns of the Reach patch. Absolutely awesome. It's also going to give us Minor Berserk at all times, increasing our damage by 8%. Also incredible as well. So 2 very good 1 and 2 pieces on the Slime Craw. Absolutely one of the best sets in the game now. I would argue from a DPS perspective for Sorc, Templar, and Dragon Knight, Slime Craw is probably best in slot for damage for all 3 of those. Very, very good set this patch. So we've got that on as our first set here. The next set that we're wearing on our bow bar is Senchei's Bite. Now, the reason we've got Senchei's Bite on the bow bar is for that roll dodge. Now, this build's a little tricky in the gear, as with Senchei's Bite, you need to have the bow equipped before you initiate the roll to get the bonus. Now, we are running Senchei's Bite on swap, so you see when we switch to the Greatsword here, we lose our 5-piece Senchei's Bite. So this means in order for me to keep this bonus, I have to actively switch to my bow before I roll dodge. Now, this is kind of a little bit of a hindrance to gameplay. It can be. For myself, I don't think it makes a huge difference because I've played this build a lot, and as with anything, practice makes perfect. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and you won't even really notice anymore. You'll just naturally swap to your bow bar when you roll. So it can take a little bit of getting used to, but by no means is it impossible, and by no means does it make it much more difficult to play. It just takes a little bit of practice to get used to swapping on or rolling only on that bow bar. So we've got the Sensei's Bite also in the jewelry as well, and then we've got one piece in our gear, Sensei's Bite. And then for the Great Sword, we've got that 5-piece Hunding's Rage, ladies and gentlemen, with the change to the 2 and 4 slot criticals getting buffed by about 40% this patch. I thought Hunding's Rage would be a great set to pick up, and I wasn't wrong, man. This is such a good set now. It gives you so much weapon critical. Pairing it with Sensei is awesome because we just have a huge amount of weapon crit and then Slime Craw on top of it. So that's how we're getting that over 60% weapon critical on our Great Sword bar, and we have over 67% weapon crit on the bow bar as well. So huge amounts of weapon crit on this build, all courtesy to Hunding's Sensei. So there you have it. And then we've got the Hundings in the gear as well, and you can see this is just crafted gear. So I just made it for myself and went with the Hundings weapon. For the enchants on the gear, guys, I would recommend that you tri-stack glyph your big pieces of gear, and that you stamina glyph your little pieces. Now, the reason I wanted tri-stats on the big pieces was for 2 things. Number 1, having higher health in PvP is a big deal. As you can see, we have 24.5 KHP. That's pretty good. That's pretty good for medium armor. You can't complain about that much HP. And then number 2, the maximum magicka. Our maximum magicka is just shy of 12k. Now, if we didn't have the tri-stack glyphs on, we'd be looking at about 10k magicka on this build. I found the magicka pool was a huge difference. It really helped with getting those extra mist forms out when you really need them, getting that extra purify out that you really need. Pretty much just having the bigger magicka pool ensures that when you take a lot of pressure, you have more magicka to work with in that short period of time. So I thought that the 3 tri-stack glyphs on the big pieces was well worth the effort for this build. We are stacking weapon damage primarily, so I'm not too concerned about the maximum stamina either. For the jewelry, guys, I would recommend that you run 2 weapon damage enchants and 1 stamina recovery enchant. Now, this is one rare build that you guys will see me say run in recovery enchant. Normally, I would run all 3 weapon damage glyphs, but after playing this build quite a bit in PvP on the live server, all I can really say is the recovery glyph came in real handy. It made a big difference. I think that just sitting around this recovery range just below 2k is pretty ideal for a stamina build in PvP, especially if you have access to magicka skills to keep you alive as well. So there you have it. I find that this is pretty much the ideal amount of sustain for me, and it has a great balance with damage. If you wanted to, you could also always put the weapon damage glyph here and push well over 5k weapon damage on this build. Totally up to you, but you'll give up that sustain. If you want to just PvE on this build and do PvE DPS, you could probably drop the recovery for the weapon damage, and you probably would see a little bit better DPS on this spec. And then the enchants for the weapons, guys. The bow is infused with the weapon and spell damage enchant. So this turns my Sensei bow into quite a formidable weapon that has the potential to give me almost 900 base weapon damage bonus if I do a light attack roll dodge into my target. So huge amounts of weapon damage increase off of my bow here. As you can see, this is why we've made it such the powerful buff bar that it is. And of course, this weapon damage is going to increase my healing as well. So this is part of why we can get away with running just Rally as the heal on this build, because it heals for so much and it crits really hard. And then on the Greatsword, guys, we went with Nirnhoned Greatsword this patch and a disease damage enchant on it. The reason I went with Nirnhoned is simply because Nirnhoned got buffed, and it's going to be about a 4% increase to your weapon damage and your healing to run a Nirnhoned weapon, which is really good versus Sharpened, which got nerfed this patch and is only around a 5% increase in damage, but no increase to your healing. I felt, especially for PvP, Nirnhoned was well, best in slot this patch. What can I say? Nirnhoned is definitely best in slot in PvP for a build that has to damage as well as heal itself. So there you go, guys. The disease enchant, of course, is there for that little bit of heal debuff that it can apply, and of course the damage that it does as well isn't negligible. And then for the traits on the gears, guys, I would recommend 5 well fitted. As you can see in my crafted gear in Sensei, I have 5 well fitted. And then for these 2 pieces here, your Slime Craw, I would recommend 2 impenetrable. If you want to PvE, go ahead and stick with Divines, not a big deal. You can PvE on this build quite successfully, even with using your roll dodge. I mean, you won't pull as high DPS as some of the more intense Trials builds, but you should be able to have no trouble pulling high DPS throughout a 4-man dungeon on this spec. You can go with Divines for PvE, but for PvP, I would highly recommend the 2 Impenetrable. Like I said, we're on the PTS with this character, guys, so I don't have access to the Impen Slime Craw. Okay, so let's take a look at the skills, guys. We're going to start on our Greatsword bar. So the Greatsword bar is your primary damage / healing bar for this build. All of your hardest hitting skills, as well as your hardest hitting heal, is going to come off your Greatsword bar. So let's take a look at it. Executioner is the first ability here. This is simply the finisher move. We're going to use this to kill people, finish off targets. Very simple. You'll only bust the Executioner once your opponent is getting lower on health, at least past that 50% threshold. Critical Rush, this is our primary gap closer. Not only that, this is a heavy crit build. So Critical Rush deals bonus damage based on the distance traveled. So this actually hits really hard. On PvE mobs, I've been able to get over 20k crits with my Crit Rush on this build. So in PvP, if you hit a squishier target, you should be able to hit around a 10k crit once you hit as hard as possible against that target. The next ability we have is Repentance. This is a great sustain skill. It's going to give us all minor regens, which is nice as we are running our Zorga's Smoked Bear Haunch. But the best thing about Repentance, of course, is sucking the stamina and health out of dead bodies. It heals you and it returns your resources. Absolutely incredible sustain skill, especially for a bursty Templar who gets kills pretty quickly. You can use this skill very well to keep your resources high, especially if you're getting those kills. The next ability that we have is Rally. This is going to be access to Major Brutality, increasing our weapon damage by 20%. This is also going to be a very beefy heal over time. Let's buff up real quick for that Rally so you guys can see what it looks like in the circle. We've got a 1245 heal every 2 seconds, and then of course we get the Rally burst heal coming up as well, and we'll just let that slowly go in there. So Rally is going to be your primary heal for this build. The heal over time is actually pretty good. We are using Mist Form, making Rally uniquely the best stamina heal choice for this build. We'll talk a little bit about that once we get into the gameplay commentary. But Rally is absolutely incredible for this build. Incredible standalone heal. Huge amount. Here you can see my fully buffed Rally comes up to a 10k value outside of the circle. Even bigger inside this. Oh, I was too late there. But huge rallies. And the last ability that we have here is Binding Javelin. This is going to be your primary stun for the build. It's really nice because it has quite a long knockback, so your opponent's stuck in the stun for a good duration of time. On top of it, it's an Adric Spear skill, so it will increase your critical damage on this bar, which is great as we are playing a crit build. And then finally, it can proc Burning Light as well, so you can actually deal a lot of outgoing damage with the Binding Javelin if you get that Burning Light proc. And then as the ultimate, guys, we have Flawless Dawnbreaker. And Flawless Dawnbreaker, of course, is here to buff up that weapon damage. It is a great burst ult if you want to drop it down. This build does have a lot of damage. We look at that Flawless Dawnbreaker tooltip. It is quite formidable, to be honest. Coming in at almost 14k on Flawless. Now, if we went for the other morph, we'd have well over a 16 or 17k tooltip on the Flawless there. So this one, I think, is the better bet because you really need that healing, and a lot of your outgoing damage comes from the Crit Rush and Javelin combos that you do, as well as dotting opponents up on your bow bar. You don't really use Flawless Dawnbreaker for much else other than when you really need that big spike on a target. So I would highly recommend going with Flawless for that increased healing and increased Greatsword kit damage. Okay, so let's take a look at that bow bar. So on this build, your bow bar is your kind of combo set bar. So what you're going to do is set your offensive combos with this bar, and you're also going to use your bow bar primarily to defend yourself and run away, which is very important for this build. You have to be able to defend yourself or you're going to get yourself killed. This is a very mobile build too, so the bow bar is a big part of that mobility. So let's jump right into it. First ability we have here is Poison Injection. Now, Poison Injection is an absolutely incredible damage over time ability. It deals huge amounts of damage over time to a target that is lower on health, making it a very powerful execute dot. So this is a must-have dot for this build. The next ability that we have is Power of the Light. So Power of the Light, of course, is another dot. You're going to put it on your target. It'll deal a little bit of damage, and then as you damage that target, 6 seconds later, the Power of the Light will explode for bonus damage based on how much damage you did to the target. Power of the Light also applies Minor Breach, which is awesome. And then the next ability we have is Elusive Mist. Now, Elusive Mist is your best defensive ability on this build. Elusive Mist is what you're going to use to get the hell out of trouble. Here's how I would describe it. Roll Dodge is your normal defensive ability for the build. You're going to try to roll dodge most incoming attacks, but whenever roll dodge is not a viable option, you will go for Mist Form. Mist Form is so great. Reduce 75% incoming damage. We are a Nord, and Undeath plays into this as well, so we have huge amounts of damage reduction protection when we're in our mist form. It gives us the major expedition as well, and it also makes you immune to being snared or stunned or anything like that. So it's very, very powerful. And then, of course, mist will also stop your healing, and that's why we've got rally. Coming out of your mist form, you should always pump your rally, get that heal over time going right away out of your mist, as well as get that big burst heal too. Then we have Extended Ritual. This is our Purge. Very important for a Templar to run Extended Ritual in PvP, I think. The 5 effect Purge is so valuable, and it goes a long way to keeping yourself alive in PvP. So I would highly recommend this. It's also great for your friends, too, because they can also purify negative effects using the synergy on it as well. And then we have Restoring Focus. Now, I've switched Restoring Focus instead of Channeled Focus here, and that's why we're running the Urzorga Smoke Bear Haunch, because I'm not using Channeled Focus to give me the Magicka recovery. Restoring Focus, however, is going to give me minor vitality and minor protection, increasing my healing received and reducing my damage taken by 8%. Now, those are really good. This makes it a very powerful defensive buff, and this is our only real defensive buff that we run on this build, is this buff and Rally. So that's about it. And then finally, guys, we have Devouring Swarm. Devouring Swarm is your, well, anti-Zerg ability, pretty much. If too many players jump on you on this build, you're just going to take a lot of damage from them. Devouring Swarm is a great way to turn that damage into healing for you and kind of survive when a group of enemy players jumps on top of you, and then maybe reposition and get out of there. Or if it goes well, you got a couple kills and you can finish the people that jumped on top of you. Devouring Swarm is a fantastic ultimate, and I would highly recommend it for this build for those moments where this build does not shine, which is in those tighter kind of multiple players in a tight spot on top of you and you're trying to get away from them. That's when Devouring Swarm is really going to give you what you're looking for. Okay, so let's take a look at those champion points. We're going to start in that green tree. We've got 16 in Warlord and 7 in Sprinter. Focus on Warlord, of course. We need to break free. Sprinting, also important for this build. In the Lover tree, we have 64 Mooncalf, 32 Arcanist, 7 Tenacity, and 19 in Healthy. We are a Stage 4 Vampire, but I am a Nord, and we are running Urzorga, so I still have around 600 health recovery. Thought I'd put a few points in here, doesn't hurt. Big focus on Mooncalf here, 13% stam recovery, and then a bit of Magicka recovery as well. We do have over 1k Magicka recovery, so 8% doesn't hurt there, and just a few points in Tenacity as well. Wind Running being the important passive here. You know, 2% movement speed doesn't seem like a lot, but you know what? It does make a difference. I would recommend trying to get Wind Running if you can, and then of course increasing your health and Magicka recovery by 10% while sprinting. Very important as well, as we do use Mist form a lot on this build, so if you're trying to get away, sprint into Mist is a great way to push that Magicka sustain as far as you can. In the Shadow Tree, we have 75 in Tumbling. This is for that roll dodge. 20 in Shadow Ward because, of course, it's PvP. We're going to need to block. And then just 4 in Befoul. And this is just to increase the healing reduction that our enchant can do because I had a few points left over to put. Okay, in the Apprentice Tree, we've got 15 in Blessed and then 0 in all the other trees. This is just for a little bit of healing. In the Atronach, we've got 59, 61, 59 weapons, physical weapon expert. This is for our light and heavy attacks, 29% additional damage. Huge, huge, huge. And then 61 Master at Arms for 21% additional damage with all direct damage attacks, which a majority of our attacks are, as we're using a primarily single target damage kit. The important passive that we get here, of course, is Tactician. When you roll dodge to dodge an attack, you set your enemy off balance. So not only can your light attack, poison injection, roll dodge, buff your weapon damage by 850 base on this build, but it will set your opponent off balance, which we can take advantage of with the Exploiter passive to increase our damage against off-balance enemies by 10%. And we can see that in the Ritual Tree here at 75 points. So we got 27 in Mighty for that 7%, 18 in Piercing, just a bit in Piercing, and 40% in Precise Strikes. We have a lot of crit on this build, we have a lot of critical healing, and a lot of critical damage. So we had to start focus on Precise Strikes in the Ritual Tree here. And then in the red tree, guys, we got 56 Ironclad, 10 Spell Shield, 10 Medium Armor Focus, and 58 Resistant. Ironclad, of course, is going to reduce the incoming direct damage attacks that you take. Majority of harder hitting burst skills are direct damage attacks, so Ironclad is great to invest in for PvP if you don't want to get bursted down too hard. And then, of course, Resistant is going to give us 1356 critical resistance. Absolutely incredible to put that crit resist there because that is something that we're kind of missing by running so much well-fitted with the Sensei on this build. And then, of course, the 2-piece crit resist that we run in Slimecraw will bring us just over 1800 to about 1900 critical resistance. In the Lady Tree, we've got 19 Elemental Defender and 19 in Hardy. None in Thick Skinned. We don't need it because we are a Templar. We purge most of our dots, or we're going to be in Mist for a majority of the dot duration anyway. For Hardy and Elemental Defender, 5% reduced incoming damage all around. Can't go wrong with that. And then finally, in the Lord Tree, we've got 43 in Quick Recovery for 10% more healing and 5 in Expert Defender. Alright guys, so let's jump into that PvP commentary. We're going to start off here with a quick gank on this guy here. You see the Poison Injection, Power of the Light, we dot him up real good, crit rush, and finish him off. Nice easy kill on that guy. Now to target number 2. We just do a bow heavy attack into the critical rush just to put some pressure into him. I start crit rushing him pretty hard here, going for the executes, but he is getting healed by his allies quite a bit. So I decide to peel out of there, making sure to stay very aware of my positioning and the enemy Zerg positioning. I don't want to let too much focus on me occur. And there you see the one stun I got on that Nightblade. Another friendly Nightblade actually pops the kill on him, so we do manage to get the kill on that guy there. I come towards these rocks, go into my Bat Swarm, and then while in my Bat Swarm, I crit rush into that Nightblade. I actually get the kill off on him, but I was mostly using him to get away here. I tried to get a Repentance off of his dead body there, but I didn't manage to grab the Repentance. Someone else must have grabbed it. And then I'm going to sprint away here, and I'm going to periodically roll in between every few steps and make sure to keep terrain in between me and the targets I'm trying to run away from. As you can see, I peel around a tree and then position myself so that the tree is directly in between me and the target. So now that they've kind of given up chase, they're not really coming to attack me anymore, I decide to re-approach these guys, wait a little bit for my regen to pop back up, get back into stealth, and here we go. So here what happens is I get detected by an enemy player. Now the first thing I'm going to do once I get detected is go into Mist Form, because I'm still in crouch so I can re-enter stealth after that initial detection. Mist Form's going to make sure that if anybody jumps me while I'm detected, I won't get hurt too bad. And now is the opportunity to hit these guys here. So just quickly making sure I got the pots I need. Getting in position, I get detected again here, and there is a player who got a little bit aware to my position. You see he's looking for me here. So I've managed to attract 2 players kind of off to the side here away from the siege, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Split these guys up. Any outnumbered combat, especially on a build like this one, where you have lots of mobility and lots of burst, you want to make the numbers even. So here I honestly just kill these guys at a distance. I start with the Power of the Light and Poison Injection, and then I just hit them with a nice big javelin attack, and it pretty much drops them with the Power of the Light combo and the Poison Tick, and both those guys go down there just to some simple pottles. And of course, I've attracted some yellow to come and res them. I throw a couple javelins at the guys trying to res. I managed to get both of them to stop the res. I decide to quit attacking the second guy that I hit there, as he seems quite tanky, and I put some pressure into this guy in the back, the Sork here. I go into my Bat Swarm to make sure that I can capitalize this kill. I'm also getting sniped pretty hard here, as you guys can see. So that was a part of the Bat Swarm there too, to make sure that if I take any incoming snipe ganks, I can actually survive them in that open field position. So after hitting these guys, I decide to peel back around these rocks, and that is it. They actually end up going inside the keep, and I ended up peeling out to a different fight. So let's do the next one. We are just at another keep here, defending it against enemy siege, and we attack their siege line. We see the big gank off on one of those players there. Nice beefy damage on him. I go and put some damage into this guy here, managed to finish him off just as he's going into his Destro ultimate, and there you see the pretty decent rally heal coming out of that. But these guys are injecting me hard. They're throwing lots of poison injections on me, so I'm rolling up the hill, just making sure to keep that distance between them. I can deal with the poison injection dots for now, but I have to be a little careful. Something to note about this clip here is that you see that my stamina bar is a little bit bigger than normal, and that's because I'm running Dubious Cameroon in this clip as opposed to Azorga's Smoked Bear Haunch, and you really notice in this clip the lack of Magicka sustain that I have due to the fact that I'm not running Azorga's Smoked Bear Haunch. Bear Haunch by far the better bet for the foods here, guys, especially for PvP. So I get ganked a little bit. I got a couple guys sniping me here. I try to put some pressure into this other player here, but he's quite tanky. He just ends up holding block and waiting out my Bat Swarm. So he does the right thing. I probably should have gone for maybe another target that wasn't so ready for my offensive pressure, but I decide I'll pull back up the side here. I am pretty low on resources and just kind of jump up this thing. They get stuck trying to jump over at first, but they do manage to make it over. There we go. And this poor guy here, only champion 83, he's just It's just so easy to clean up. So I get a quick kill off on him, go back around the rocks here, and I'm left just the one-on-one with this guy here. And look at that, EP's also pushing out of the keep. They want to kill this guy too, but I don't want to share, so I'm going to try to get the kill as fast as I can. And there we have it. Let's move on to the next clip, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see some group work for the Ghost build. We've seen how great it is solo, how well you can kite people out. Let's see how this plays in a group in kind of larger scale combat. So same kind of deal. We've got to keep under the attack, and I am on the way to the defense. We hit their back line here really hard. You see that I managed to nuke one guy right off the siege. The other guy's standing behind the pillar. I get him as well. And then the third player here goes down to the Dawnbreaker. So in this clip here, I'm also running Orzorga's Smoked Bear Haunch, or I'm also running Dubious Cameroon Throne, sorry. So I don't have the Bear Haunch. There you see I just about go down, get the rally at the last second there. You want to make sure that you keep your health above that 50% threshold when rally's involved. Now, I get a huge amount of healing there, and that's because Patty actually drops his healing ult on me just as I get pressured by those DC. But they come up around this corner. The one player here decides he's not even going to stick up here, and I'm left just to fight this Sork here. Just kind of roll dodge quickly, re-heal myself, get a nice heavy attack into the stun off on him, heavy attack into Flawless Dawnbreaker. We go for the finish on him, but it doesn't finish him right away. I dot him up really quick, and he actually survives. He takes no fall damage going down, that lucky little bastard. Patty goes down, though, of course, to put some pressure onto these guys. So the trick about this fight here is that there's a lot of blue on siege, and we have to try to kill them by spreading them out. So I decide to place a quick camp down here so that we have reses, also to get our guy up that died inside the enemy troops there. And then I come back inside. Pat's doing great. He's holding up on his own. They've kind of rezzed all their dead now. One of their Sorks here just kind of off on his own. I get a really easy kill off on him. He just kind of straggles, tries to get away, but put a nice amount of pressure into him. We've got this Templar that just jumped down from up top. Must have been fighting Patty, and we're just going to put some pressure into him as well. He goes for the healing ult, and me and Ulad both go for our executes, and we manage to take him down through his healing ult. And now we're kind of fighting these guys open field. Now this is where the fighting's going to get a little bit trickier. I get hit by a nasty soul assault there, and I had already clicked the crit rush before I had the opportunity to block, and I get melted right away. Good thing I threw that camp down. Hey guys, camp's OP. That's what I'm talking about. So they're still attacking these guys, but they've kind of fallen back a little bit. Blue not really on the ball here. They're not really picking up their dead or anything. They're kind of just not really paying attention. They got half their guys on siege, half their guys just kind of running around doing whatever. So we're just picking them off one at a time. You see here we've piled up a few dead bodies inside this tower now. 3 dead bodies in the tower. We got 1 dead body out there. He goes for the res. I crit rush into him, get a nice crit rush, miss the Dawnbreaker. Dawnbreaker will be undodgeable again this patch though, so we will not miss that Dawnbreaker once Horns of the Reach hits live. And now it seems that the numbers have evened out a little bit. I think it's about a 3-on-5 or a 3-on-6, so we decide that we're going to aggressively push into these guys. That guy goes for his Destro ult and just stands in it. All I do is kite him around the ult and just bring him down. Very simple kill off on that guy there. Now they've got 3 guys left here. They're going for reses. I don't want to let that happen, so I try stunning the guys before they can get the reses off. They do manage to get 1 res off here, but we are staying on top of these guys. We're just trying to move a lot. We're trying to really force these guys to pull themselves out of position, pull themselves away from their friends, away from the dead bodies. And here you can see we managed to just completely lure this group totally out of position, and we wipe all of them and get a nice big fat tick for that. So let's move on to the next fight, guys. So this is a AD keep that we are attacking. Similar situation here. I'm running Dubious Cameroon, so I do not have the extensive Magicka recovery that I would normally have on this build. That being said, let's jump right into it. There's a bunch of yellow that have just come out of the keep as it has unflagged. So this is an unflagged keep, and there's a lot of yellow that are just about to hit us. And this is a rather organized group. We've got 3 in our group, and then 1 other EP player up here on a Stamina Dragon Knight. So we just kind of position ourselves in the tower and get ready. First guy comes up. First thing I'm going to do is dot him up, dodge roll his attack, crit rush into him. And you see we put quite a bit of damage in him. He's quite a tanky Dragon Knight. So, you know, it's going to take a few combos to take this guy down. Maybe if we get lucky. Here you see we get a good stun off on him. And, of course, I have him fully dotted because that is what you're supposed to do. Keep your opponent in the situation where you can actually capitalize on that kill. And there you have it. There's a Nightblade down here. I just dot him up, hit him with the javelin, we finish him off, and we move back out here. We're looking for the bulk of this yellow group, and here we see Mad Shadow Man has just gone down. There is the yellow group. Here's the organized portion of these guys. So this is going to be the harder part to fight. I managed to get myself around behind these guys, thank God. I get a really nice interrupt off on that guy as he's going for the Radiant on his Templar. However, I pull back behind here as there's a lot of yellows. You see that they actually died. The DK actually dragon leaped into the middle of them right after I had hit them and dropped my Dawnbreaker. And they get quite a few kills there. Try to go for that Templar again, get a Repentance off of Mad, the double dodge roll again, making sure to keep my corners tight. I don't want to allow these guys to target me as I run around the corners, and you see it works really well. I can find myself back up top again. Throw down the Purify as the DK had kind of telling me, move myself back into this position here. The DK still chasing me, but taking pressure from the Nightblade on my team here. I take advantage of that moment to turn on the DK as well, as he's pulled himself out of position, and move back around to Mad Shadow Man's side. So I go into my Bat Swarm here, roll dodge to dodge that incoming attack, and that kind of buffs me up, and then we start hitting these guys really hard. We see you get a nice kill off on them there. I kind of get stuck in a rather lengthy stun, but I do get the stamina to break it eventually. I get the Repentance, roll out of there, reset, heal myself up with Rally, set my circles down, and re-engage with these guys. They do have Coldfire Siege shooting at us from up top, so not only are we fighting an organized group outnumbered, but they've got people sieging us from up top as well. So we're going to do our best, our absolute best, to kind of keep these guys at bay. Lots of hiding in the cubby holes. We want to make sure we stay away from the siege as much as possible. You see the shot coming by on my left there, and I'm throwing a lot of Purifies down as well. So in this particular fight, I think Orzorgas would have made a big difference because it would have given me much more access to a lot more Magicka skills. You see I'm quite often running around with the mark on me, etc., and those would be things that I could easily alleviate with an Orzorga if I had it. And here we come back around this side. My friendly player here actually manages to get the res off on Mad Shadow Man. I attack with my bats, get another kill off on one of these players here, quickly reposition out of there. You see the siege coming down hard on these guys here. Lots of cold fire pressure no matter where we go, so we gotta move around, gotta stay mobile. Still taking a lot of pressure from the yellow. I pull back into this tower here. The yellow do follow me, which is what I wanted here. However, the mage guards have now respawned, so I'm just gonna try to put them down. They follow me back into this corner here. I do a quick Purify up the side there and go for that Rally heal. I've got quite a few dots and debuffs on me, however. There's a quite heavy dot DK chasing me down here. I come back up the side here, manage to catch this Nightblade on his own, take a nasty cold fire shot, gonna Purify that right away. I saw it incoming, and I made sure to roll dodge and follow my roll dodge with that Purify, because if I get hit by cold fire for more than one tick, that's pretty much my whole life points. Cold Fire Siege does a lot of damage. A second Cold Fire Bolt gets me there. Go into bats after purifying. Get 2 kills off on these guys in bat mode. Nice, nice kills. Go for the 3rd kill on this guy here as well. And then we're going to peel back around this corner. Keep the pressure on these guys. We finally have them in a position here where we have their bodies and we can defend them against the siege. But you see I take a bad roll around that corner. I shouldn't have pushed back in. And if I did push in, I should have pushed in Mist, which I didn't have the Magicka for. So there you have it, guys. That is the end of the PvP commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the comments section. And as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see y'all next time.